So if you're experiencing stiff hips, then you may be also experiencing a bunch of other things happening with your body, perhaps back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, or knee pain. The hips, because they're in the center of your body and they're really one of the biggest joints in the body, they affect everything above and below if they're out of alignment or they're tight or they're not able to activate.
In a way, the hips are really wonderful part of the body to explore. If I reflect back, I smashed the hips for many years. First, I smashed it with strength training and all that stuff to get stronger. Then I smashed the hips with getting it flexible again. And both was not really supportive from a hip perspective, especially to loosen the hips up.
Mm.
First, the hip was protecting itself against strength or against load. Then the hip was protecting itself against my madness to get it flexible again. And only the things which we are sharing today brought some lightness into the whole game. So it's more about exploration and not trying to fix something. And this
Yeah.
is maybe opening the space for the things we share today.
It's really a common mistake I find. Like when we're looking at the topic of, hey, my hips are stiff, we'll think about like stretching them in different ways. And while there's nothing wrong with stretching, the idea of stretching is to go a bit further than perhaps what we normally do to open up space. But when we're stretching, we're also in our most vulnerable position. And for a lot of people, it's difficult to even start to get into a position where we can effectively stretch because we're already so tight or disconnected from the area. And then often we put ourselves in a compromised position, and it's not effective because we're just not engaged with the area, or like that mind body connection isn't established, or b we push it too far, or we push other areas too far because there's a lot of dense tissue around the hips through different layers of, the hip flexors and the psoas and the adductors. They all intersect with the hips to help stabilize and move them. But if you're not very connected in that area, then we can compensate. We can overstrain the lower back, we can compensate at the knees and don't even get into the hips. Rather than to try and fix something, because this is such a mistake that happens at the beginning, like Marcus was saying, where we go in with the assumption that, oh, my hips are stiff, that means that there's something wrong with them, and now I've got to do this thing to make it better. You're already better, and so we're just connecting with where you're at, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then we can build our capacity gradually. And no one else can show you that capacity until you test it and explore it. We're going to do three things. We're going to connect, and this is going to be important to establish feeling and knowing our capacity, knowing where we feel tight, maybe where we feel areas that may be overly loose as well, because tightness isn't just muscle tension, it can also be areas that aren't fully able to activate. So, like your nervous system can't send signals to those areas. So, it may feel like loose and floppy, and your body has to hold on tight in an endeavor to try and stabilize it. So, we'll connect to be able to see all those things happening. We'll observe the area. So, we'll notice things like, oh, when I go into this range, that's the edge. I feel when my body starts to really tense up, and then I might know a more productive space to practice in that's uniquely mine, rather than just like go into this stretch and suffer with a smile and then hurt yourself in the process. And then we'll explore the area. So find the different ways that we can do this movement rather than having a set right and wrong way. So you don't then stay in your head going, am I doing it right? Is this the best way? Am I gonna hurt myself? All of these sorts of things. Once we start opening up to exploring, you then start to reclaim, okay, well, these are my hips. What do I have the capacity to explore? It may not be a perfect looking stretch. It may not be the best posture, but it may be that what you can do to start to then set you on a pathway to then move forward to moving more freely.